Hey there, 8th graders, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to have you here today because we are embarking on a really vital mission. We are going to master the annotated bibliography. Now hold on, I know exactly what you might be thinking. That sounds like just another heavy academic requirement. But I want you to shift your perspective right out of the gate here. This isn't just a school assignment. This is an essential toolkit for finding the truth in a very noisy world. It's a skill that's going to empower you not just in the classroom, but in real life. Okay, let's dive into this.
Let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going to cover seeking and testing truth, defining annotated bibliographies, 3 steps to success, learning from real examples, your research mission, and finally, becoming a godly learner. Section 1. Seeking and testing truth.
So think about the digital world we live in right now. We are literally swimming in information 24/7. And this brings us to a massive, highly provocative question. How do we actually know what is true? Every single day, people fall for fake news or build these really strong opinions on just totally weak research. As 8th graders, stepping up into higher levels of thinking, that is a trap we absolutely must actively avoid. We can't just accept everything at face value anymore, right? We need a solid strategy to dig deeper.
And you know what? This isn't just some academic idea. It is a biblical mandate. Look at 1 Thessalonians 5:21. But test them all, hold on to what is good. Testing where we get our information isn't just about scoring a good grade. It is a completely vital part of making wise, God-honoring choices in our education and our everyday lives. When we rigorously test the information we consume, we are actively practicing wisdom.
Moving right along to Section 2, defining annotated bibliographies. Okay, to put that scripture into action, we need a specific academic tool. So what in the world is an annotated bibliography? Well, here's the definition. It's simply a list of your sources that includes a short explanation for each one, describing what it's about and how you used it. See, it really just breaks down into 2 super simple parts. First, it's the list of the actual sources you used for your research. And second, it's a short written explanation attached to each of those sources. That's the whole shebang. Now you might be wondering, why does this actually matter? Well, first off, it shows your teacher, and eventually your readers, that your research is built on a rock-solid foundation of trustworthy sources. Second, it's going to save you so much frustration later by helping you track exactly where your information came from. No more losing links. Third, it trains your brain to evaluate if a source is genuinely useful and reliable. And honestly, most importantly, this is a real-life superpower. Whether you're preparing a speech, fact-checking some crazy online news article, or making a strong case for something important in your community, knowing how to evaluate information is an incredible life skill.
All right, Section 3. 3 steps to success.
Let's look at the actual mechanics of how we do this. Building an annotated bibliography comes down to 3 exact, totally manageable steps. Step 1. Cite the source in the correct format. For our current work in 8th grade, we're going to be using the MLA format, which stands for the Modern Language Association. Step 2. Summarize what the source is about in just 2 to 3 really concise sentences. And Step 3. Evaluate the source's quality and explain how it supports your specific research. So, cite, summarize, evaluate. Boom.
Let's make this concrete in Section 4, learning from real examples.
The absolute best way to learn this is to see it in action across different subjects. So let's start with a science topic. Take a look at how this MLA citation is perfectly formatted. We've got the author's last name, then her first name, the title of the book in italics, the publisher, and the year it was published, 2021. It's clean, it's precise, and it tells us exactly where to find this info.
Now, what's really cool here is how clearly we separate the quick summary from the actual evaluation. For the 2 to 3 sentence summary, we just state the facts. The book explains climate change science, human impact, and solutions. But the evaluation, that is where your critical thinking shines. We declare it reliable because it's written by a well-known environmental scientist providing up-to-date facts. You see what we did there? You aren't just summarizing, you are playing the judge on its credibility.
Let's switch gears and look at a historical topic. Here we have an article by Mark Johnson from an academic journal back in 2020. Notice how the MLA format shifts just a tiny bit for an article. We put the article title in quotes, the journal name in italics, and then add the volume, the issue, the year, and those specific page numbers we used.
This perfectly illustrates what a top-notch historical evaluation looks like. The summary quickly gives us the facts: Douglas's early life, his escape from slavery, his abolitionist work. But check out that evaluation. It takes it a step further by pointing out specific details, like the fact that this source contains detailed quotes from Douglas's own speeches. That proves it is a highly trustworthy primary source, making it an absolute slam dunk for a biography project.
For our final example, let's look at a faith and service topic. Here is a March 2022 magazine article by Sarah Williams about faith and serving the poor. Once again, that MLA citation is spot on, telling us exactly where to find those pages in Community Outreach magazine.
This summary notes that the article highlights faith-based community programs feeding and housing the homeless. But the evaluation is what makes this a stellar annotation. It confirms that the source is super useful because it perfectly connects our biblical principles and our Christian duty to serve with modern real-world examples of action. It bridges that gap between faith and practice beautifully.
Okay, moving on to Section 5, your research mission.
All right, it is time to put all this theory into practice and show off those new skills. Here are your 5 specific tasks for this week's mission. Number 1, create one annotated bibliography entry for a book source you've used in school. 2, write a full annotation for an online article, making sure you get both your summary and your evaluation in there. 3, write a short explanation of why annotations are actually helpful in research. 4, compare 2 different sources and decide which one is more credible, and tell us why. And 5, make an annotated bibliography entry for a faith-based article or devotional. Remember, flex those distinct summary and evaluation muscles we just practiced for all of your entries.
And finally, Section 6, Becoming a Godly Learner.
This brings our entire lesson together. Because, we don't just learn skills simply to get smart. We learn them to become wise. Let's look at Romans 8:6-7 together for a second. The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. As an 8th grader growing in your faith and your intellect, a spiritually minded student is someone who actively seeks truth and wisdom. And what does that seeking lead to? It leads to life and peace. When we rigorously test our sources and dig for the truth, we are quite literally governing our minds by the Spirit. Which brings us to our ultimate takeaway, our core philosophy. Here at HeroesMart Academy, we intertwine biblical morality with education. Why? Because education without morality can actually hurt. Getting more knowledge and intelligence shouldn't simply make you a more capable person. It absolutely must help you make wise, God-honoring choices in everything you do. The academic excellence you're pursuing right now, like mastering this annotated bibliography, should always be done with your mind totally centered on God, truth, wisdom, and righteous choices. So, 8th graders, as you head into this week's assignment, are you ready to boldly seek the truth?